Hi, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel and Inspired by Onika. And I am your host, Onika. So, today's episode is Are we evolving or just pressing replay? Okay, so what I mean by that is if we wake up every day, we do the same thing day in and day out. It's like we wake up, we press the button. We just replay the same days over and over. So it's kind of like when you play a video, it gets to the end and it stops, but you can loop it to where it'll just keep replaying over and over. So that's kind of what I mean by when I say that we're pressing replay. So we don't want to do that. Okay, we're meant to grow emotionally, physically, mentally, all those things. So when we get to be in our 30s and beyond, 30s, 40s, 50s, we don't want to continue to do the same things that we did when we were in our 20s. So we don't want to wear the same clothing as we did in our 20s. We don't want to wear our hair the same way that we did in our 20s. A lot of things we did back then will not apply now. And why is that? Because times change and you realize, okay, I'm getting older, so these things, they no longer serve me. I'm not going to still do the same things, like, for example, playing video games, right? So I know that there are still some adults that play video games, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just if you let it compromise other things you have to do and you're on it forever and hours and hours and hours, then that becomes a problem. But just when you're a child, a teenager, you're in your 20s, you're not going to be doing that when you're in your 30s and over. You're not. And at least we hope not. Okay, we just hope not. So today I'm just going to give a few tips about how we can grow and challenge ourselves and evolve as we get older, because the whole thing is you don't want to, because when we do the same things over and over, it's not a challenge. It doesn't require us to think, right? And I'll give you an example of what I mean. So let's say that when you go to work every day, you take the same route every single day to and from. It doesn't require you to think. You know where to go, you know where the potholes are, you know what lane to get out of, when to switch because you know it's going to get backed up. You just know, you don't have to think. So that's an example of we're just stuck in replay over and over and over. So one thing you can do to change that is change your route one way, like maybe when you're going to work, change your route then. That way it requires you to use, a different part of your brain because you have to think. You're not going your usual way, so you have to be more alert, more aware. So that may be, a small thing you can do. I'm not talking about anything that's like rocket science, anything major, but little small changes that we can make will help us to grow and evolve because after all, that's what we want to do. We don't want to stay in the same place year after year after year. So the first thing that I will say, so how we can get started with this is get you some paper, pen. I have my notes here. So get you paper, pen, write it down. Okay, don't rely on memory. Just write it down because you're going to have to access it again. So I'll wait. Get you a pen, paper, or, for the people that don't use paper anymore, you can, if you want to use your tablet, your phone, whatever method works for you. Okay, just know that we're going to start with a list, and just whatever you're going to use for your list, just make sure it's something that's easily accessible to you. Okay, because you're going to have to reference it a couple of times. And your list is going to change as you go along. And I just want the younger people that may be watching to know that this is not a magic trick. It's not going to change overnight. This is a process. Okay, so things take a little bit of time. It's not like it's gonna just happen and change in one day. That's not how it works. So the first thing is you start with your list. You're going to just kind of take stock of your daily activities, things that you do all the time. Write those things down, right? And then once you finish making your list, you're going to go over each one and you're going to ask yourself some questions, okay? You're going to ask yourself, is this activity challenging me? Am I learning anything from it? Am I growing mentally, emotionally? And if your answer is no to that, then you may want to cross that off your list, okay? And you want to replace that with something new, okay? So, and how do you do that? So, one thing where you can start with is you can seek out some new activities, okay? And start with some things that are not your usual go-to kind of things. You don't, the whole point is to make it a challenge. Okay, so maybe let's say if you have a friend who may be involved in a group or something, and they've asked you before to join them, but you're like, nah, it's not for me, no thanks. So maybe that might be where you want to start. Maybe you can join that group, and do some research. Go online. There's so much information out there. Just go online. Start with that. Okay. Just look for some things that are just not your usual go-tos. Things that are not so easy. Things that you can't just ace and they're like, oh, I can do that with no problem. Something that maybe you haven't tried because you thought, number one, you're just not interested, or number two, you felt like, oh, that's too hard, I can't do that. So those are the kinds of things you might want to start with, okay? So this opens the doors to new activities. You get to learn new skills. You get to meet new people. And, what is better than, learning a new skill? And, it may be something you might be surprised. It may be something that you love to do. But since you've never tried it, how are you going to know, right? How are you going to know? So, then also, you want to challenge yourself by conquering a fear that you have. Okay, so when you do something that is out of your comfort zone because you're afraid of whatever, it doesn't matter the reason that you're afraid, but if it's something that you haven't tried because you feel like, oh, I can never do that. So, some things we can do, we can conquer our fears, okay? That could be another thing. So, let's say, for example, that you are afraid to speak in public, you don't like speaking in front of crowds. So, one thing you can do is you can join a Toastmasters chapter, and they have those all over the world. Basically, what it is you go and you stand up in front of the group, and they're going to be very supportive of you. That's why they're there. And you get up, you talk about whatever topic you're going to talk about. You stand up there, and when you're done, the crowd or everyone else that's there in the group, they will give you some pointers on the things you did well, what things maybe you want to improve on. So it's very helpful. Like I said, they're supportive of you because they're also there for the same reason that you are. So you won't really feel like they're putting you on the spot, that kind of thing. So that can be one thing you can start with, or a group that's similar to that. And let's say another fear, like some people are afraid of heights. Okay. You might want to start out small with something like if you have a ladder in your basement, your garage, start with that. Go halfway up, however far, you know your limits, okay? Go halfway up, maybe, see how you feel, but don't forget to breathe. That's very important. You don't want to panic. So make sure that you breathe as you're doing this, okay? And then next week or the next day, however often, go up, a little bit higher each time. Or maybe if you have access to a high rise building, go up, however many flights you want, and then look down and see, if you are starting to panic or how you feel, and go up higher the next time. Just different things like that. Now, whatever you do, I'm not talking about anything drastic like zip lining or climbing a rock wall. I'm not talking about anything drastic like that. But if you're feeling courageous, then by all means. Okay, by all means. So you know your limits again. So it's completely up to you, but you decide. So let's say if you are socially awkward, you don't feel comfortable in social events and social situations, especially if there are a lot of people that you don't know that are at the event. So what you can do is you can challenge yourself. So the next time you're at an event, challenge yourself to talk to at least one person, maybe two, that you don't know. Just kind of spark up a conversation with one or two people that you don't know. And you might want to practice before you go, as far as you want to think about what you want to say beforehand, like your opening lines. Practice it at home before you go. Because, when you're doing all these things, when you're trying to conquer a fear that you have, it's going to feel so unnatural. You're going to be uncomfortable, but that's the whole point. Okay? That is the whole point. You're going to be uncomfortable. So you might want to practice before you do, the social thing. Practice what you're going to say. Say it out loud so you can hear yourself. Know what you're going to say before you go out and do it. And before you know it, you'll get better at it the more you practice. And you just feel more comfortable. And then before you know it, you won't be afraid at all to be in those types of environments, because some people, they feel like, oh well, I don't know people, so I don't want to talk to anyone. You walk in and you sit in the corner and you don't talk to anyone. Well, and that may be why you avoid certain social situations, because you feel like, I don't know anyone, so, and you don't have fun. But like I said, that one of the things we can do is try to conquer our fears. Okay. And like I said, it's not going to feel natural at all, but just try it anyway, because let me just tell you, you're going to learn two things by starting something new, learning something new. You might want to even learn a new language. Okay. You're going to learn two things. Okay. By conquering your fears and by trying something new and examining your daily activities and finding out what things don't serve you, what things are just not a challenge at all. Two things you're going to learn. Number one, you're going to learn whether or not that activity that you try, whether or not you like it. Number one. And number two, you're going to learn that you can do it. You can do it. Something that you might have thought was so hard and, oh, you can never do it. You've overcome that fear. So those are the two things you're going to know. Now, not to say that these activities that you're going to try, that you're going to like all of them, because chances are you're probably not, but at least you'll know. Okay, you'll know this is something I like, this is something I want to continue. And not to say you're going to be great at it the first try, but it's a process. That's why we evolve. It is a process. Okay. So those are just some things you can do. And there's so many rewards. Okay. Because when we overcome our fears, it helps us to cope with other challenges in life. Also, it's a confidence booster, and you feel that sense of achievement. Okay. And then you're often, when you do overcome these fears, it leaves you more open. You're more open to try things that maybe you were afraid of before. You'll be more willing to, try certain things that maybe you were afraid of before. So, when we stay in our comfort zone, we're not learning anything, we're not growing. So we want to make sure that we're not just in the loop, pressing replay over and over. So those are some tips I hope you can apply. And I'm just going to leave you with the James Baldwin quote. So not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the episode. Leave a like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know if there's something you have tried, a way that you have overcome a fear that you've had, some new activities that you've tried. So until next time, stay well and be blessed.